Hello and welcome. I'm Karen Robbie and I'm here with Eric Mackey.
Hello.
We are both trainers for the Massachusetts PBIS Academy and here to provide some guidance on how to effectively use action planning to support your PBIS implementation. Information on action planning can be found in section IC4 of your Getting Started workbook. And if you can, we encourage you to pause the video here and access your team's current action plan. It will be helpful to have handy. As teams move through the training sequence and implementation process, you continuously hear your PBIS trainers and facilitators prompting you to add items to your action plan. Think of your action plan as an ongoing, detailed to-do list. And if it isn't already, it should be a shared document that is easily accessible to all team members. We already know that having a solid team is essential to effective PBIS implementation. Have you ever sat through team or committee meetings where great ideas and outcomes were identified and suggested, but then you left the meeting wondering, okay, what's next? Or now what?
Absolutely. It can be really frustrating and can feel like a waste of time.
Exactly. Having a clear and detailed action plan ensures that you know what the next step is, who's responsible, by when, how the team will know the task has been completed, and if the goal of the task is being met. An action plan adds clear, feasible, and accountable steps to our big ideas. As you and your team develop your action plan, there are important principles to keep in mind. How does your action plan match the goals of your district? Are the items on your action plan supporting your desired measurable outcomes? Is there room for revision based upon the needs shown by data? Does your action plan prioritize what is already known to work? Will the work you're doing ensure that implementation can continue long-term? And are the decisions you're making feasible, important, and getting you the best bang for your buck? It can be a lot, especially when your trainers keep prompting you to consider adding things to your action plan.
We're sorry about that. We know we do it. We just don't want you to forget anything. We understand that you'll need to prioritize your action plan steps.
And that makes complete sense. Let's take a look at some guiding questions to help with that prioritizing and identify a few accomplishable tasks. So I encourage you to pause the video here for a moment, read through these questions, and take a look at your team's current action plan. Think about how you would respond to these questions. The answers to these are important to ensure that your action plan is not just a to-do list, but actually a document to help your team move towards your desired outcomes of PBIS implementation.
Here's an example of an action plan offered on the NEPBIS website. This particular action plan is designed to organize your efforts towards meeting your team's collaboratively determined outcomes.
This is a great one, but I often have teams have a really hard time knowing what outcomes they should be focusing on. Do you find that as well?
Absolutely, especially when they're just starting implementation. Actually, let's talk about that for a moment. Your outcome statements will likely sound different when you're at year 1 of rolling out PBIS versus year 3, 5, or 10. When you're just starting the process of PBIS, your statements will likely be more focused on the initial stages of implementation and building fidelity, such as an outcome goal like 80% or more of staff will report student behavior as being a high priority as evidenced by survey data. From there, your action steps may be to identify or build your survey, identify how the survey can be sent, identify when your survey can be sent, send the survey, evaluate the results of the survey, and identify how your team will report out and respond to the results of the survey. When you're further along in implementing PBIS, your outcome statements may be more focused on longer term, broader outcomes, such as reducing office discipline referrals from the classroom by 10% over the next year as measured using SWIS. Your action steps will likely be driven by the data you gathered, which can help you to identify whether you need to provide classroom management strategies to all of your teachers or just a few select classrooms who may benefit from additional coaching. These outcome statements, determined by your team, can help you to prioritize and organize the steps you need to take in order to reach those goals. Here's another action plan that can be really helpful for teams that are just getting started and unsure of what outcomes to work towards. This one is from CIRC, and it's more focused on the implementation of critical components of PBIS, similar to those that you'd find on the tiered fidelity inventory. And here's an action plan that is based purely on the tiered fidelity inventory. The TFI is a tool that teams use at least yearly to assess their progress and the extent to which they are implementing core features of PBIS. What's nice is this can be completed while completing the TFI or sometime soon thereafter. Essentially, this action plan is organized to align with the items on the TFI and can help you to organize actions the team needs to take in order to fully implement the core features of PBIS. Personally, I like to complete this form while teams are completing the TFI so that they can quickly document what pieces are missing and so we don't have to go back and remember at a later date. When you have a moment, please take time to click on the video link and watch the short video from PBIS apps on how to use the TFI for action planning.
Thanks, Eric. That really makes sense. And I can see how different teams with different needs at various stages of implementation could use these different types of formats as guides. I also think it's really important to think about developing a system to ensure that action planning becomes an ongoing practice. PBIS Apps' Teach by Design series provides some guidance for that. And I've shared this with many of the teams that I work with. You can click on the link here to access the whole article, but basically it comes down to these 7 steps. And you're going to want to find a date when the team can devote a chunk of time solely to evaluating your progress with your current action plan and determining some next steps. Be certain that action planning is a component of every team meeting, and it's a working document that drives your team's work. I even had a school team that made Action Plan Recorder a team role. So check out this article if you want to know even more about how to organize ahead of time, identify priorities, and make sure you're being realistic about what can be accomplished.
I like that idea of the action plan recorder.
It was really, really helpful.
So when you're with your team, preview the action plan process principles, questions, and examples in your workbook on page 38. Download the suggested templates and find one that makes sense to you and your team. Use the resources available to you. Check in with us during the coaching office hours or contact your trainer. Karen, is there anything else you would add?
Really, I think just a reminder that at times throughout the year, your trainers may check in and ask for a copy of your action plan. And the goal for that is to see how you're progressing, provide some supportive feedback. If at any time you're not sure you're on the right track, feel free to contact your trainers and send them a draft, or invite any one of us to your next meeting and we can help to review your action plan there. Thanks so much for joining us today. If you want any further information, be sure to take a look at the nepbis.org website or contact your trainer.
Take care.